Hello, welcome to a Sketchup tutorial for beginners. This is my first video, and we're going to start by just teaching you how to do the basics in Sketchup by drawing a basic room. Now there's a few ways to do this. The good thing to start with is probably knowing the dimensions of the room that you want to build. So let's just assume for this easy one we're going to do a 5 meter by 5 meter room. So we select the line tool and we click on the axis, we drag across. The green line is telling us that it's going to snap to this direction, the red line is telling us it's going to snap to this direction, and the blue line is telling us it's going to snap to this direction. So we hold the line here and then we type with the keypad the length that we need, and you look in the bottom right hand corner, it says length 5000. We're working in millimeters, so that's 5 meters. We then come across on the red axis, do the same again, and we do the same again, and then join it up. Now what we have is a 5 meter by 5 meter flat surface. Now what you can do if you know the thickness of your walls is you can then add in the thickness of your walls and draw these in as well. And then what you can do is use the extrude tool here, or push and pull as Sketchup call it, and you select which surface you would like to pull. So here we go, the wall. And let's assume in this particular room that our ceilings are 3 meters high. And then we have 3 meter wall in a 5 by 5 space. Now to quickly create this as in a whole room, you can now pull this wall out. Now at the moment it's pulling the wall out and extending it as a whole. If you want to just extend this and keep the existing lines, push Control just before and it will extend it, leaving the existing wall in place and showing you clearly what the existing length of that wall was. So we push Control, we extrude outwards, type 100. There we have a 100 wall coming out this way. We do the same here. Then what we do is we select, we pull, and we click on this point here. This will lock it to coming this distance. We do the same here. And then we continue the process with another 100 mil and pull this wall across. Now what we have is a 5 by 5 with a floor and no ceiling. Now at this stage it's good to start building some discipline into your drawing by creating layers, or as Sketchup call it, tags. So if we go over to the tags section here, we can select different groups for objects that we're creating. So we can create floor, we can create walls, we can create ceiling. So now if I select this here and go to Entity Info, and then the drop down menu here, I can select which of those tags I want to apply that to. So floor, this item here is now denominated as floor when I select it. As you will see, the wall here has an untagged surface. So if I was to then turn off the floor from a view, the floor will disappear. Now this is handy when you're placing items, because if you're trying to look underneath the model and you have the floor on, you can't see through this. If you turn the floor off, you can then see what you're trying to do. So just to continue with the discipline in this model, we will turn the floor off. We will then select the walls of the model, right click this, and we can make that a group. Make that an entire group. That then means when I select this, I am selecting it in its entirety, and I can move this around within the space. If I want to edit what is within the group, I just double click, it then opens it up, and then I'm able to do any changes I might like to make within there. So let's add this to a tag for now. Let's make this walls. So now what we have is we have floor, we have walls, and let's just add a ceiling in for now, for an example. So we drag from the corner to the top here, drop, we now have a ceiling. So basically we've created a cube. Let's tag this as ceiling and just show that we can turn the ceiling on, ceiling off, floor on, floor off, and the walls on and off. So for now we're going to leave the ceiling off. So what you've done now is you've created a basic room. So if this was your living room and you wanted to just show an example of how this new layout's going to be, this would be perfect for that kind of thing. What we can start doing now is adding in doors and windows quite easily. So let's assume we want to add a door in on this wall here. We double click to open the group and we're within the wall that we want to add the door onto. Now, for the assumption of this, I'm going to say that the door is 2.1 meters. So, and let's just say it's 200 mm is where the door starts. So 200 in, here is your point, 100 up, and it's going to be, let's say 750 across, 750 and 100 down. Now what's a good tip at this stage is to know that if you are trying to draw a line and it's not snapping to the vertices that you want, you can use the arrow keys to force it to do so. So this isn't snapping right here for me. So if I push the left hand arrow key, it's now locking this to this plane here. If I push the up arrow key, it's locking it to this plane. And if I push the other arrow key, it will lock it in this plane here. So now we've got this door in place. What we now need to do is just extrude this door through the wall to make it hollow. So we click, then click the back of the wall, select, we now have a door. Now what you'll see this has done here is it's added in this kind of effect at the bottom here, and that's because we have got a floor already there, and then it's added an additional layer on top of that. So what you can simply do is just delete that, bring your floor back in, and then you no longer have that kind of double overlay there. If you want to extend your floor into this newly created area here, because this is not currently part of the floor, all you need to simply do is select that. This has now created this on the same layer. You can use the eraser tool to erase that. This is now part of the floor and it's still on the same layer as well. Now just for aesthetics on this, I'm going to add in a door frame. So let's just say we're going to go 50 mm out and we're going to bring this up to the top and 50 mm up again and across. Lock this to the plane and 50 mm this way and 50 mm down. Now what we can do is we can select this area here and we can extrude that. Now you'll see what I've done here is I've actually made a mistake. Not a mistake as such, but something I could have done more efficiently. So what I forgot to do when adding this frame in is I forgot to open this group itself. So what I've done is I've drawn these lines on top of the group and not within the group. So if I was to connect this at the bottom here, it would make this one whole piece. And when I was to extrude it, it would not just extrude the frame, it would extrude the whole thing. So what I need to do is erase these lines if you wish, go back into the group, make sure that group is selected. Now I'm in the group, and repeat this process again. Now, although that's not something I intended to do, it will happen to you regularly, so it is a good thing to acknowledge that it's something that just happens to everybody. So here we have this frame now, and you'll see now it is within the group. I can select this part of the wall and then separately this part of the wall. So let's pull this out by 20 mm. And now we have a frame to our door. If you want, you can erase these parts of it here by clicking into the model, the eraser tool, and erasing the lines. Not necessary, but it's a nice thing to do. Now, if you're going to be viewing this from the other side as well, and you want to have the door frame come through the other side of the wall, it's very simple. Open the group, select it, push Control, pull it through to the back of the wall, and here we know it's 100 mm to this part of the surface plus 20 mm from the front. If we want it to come 20 mm out the back, we type 140. Now we have a double door frame coming through, and as you'll see again, it's added in that additional layer. We can delete that, and we have our door. Now what you can do if you want to make it easier for you is you can go to the 3D warehouse, and you can load the 3D warehouse, and you can look for a door. You can search for internal door. We'll just grab the first one that we find here that we'd like. Let's say it's this internal door here by Richard B. Now, I don't know how good this model is. Let's see if it is to scale. Doesn't look too bad. Okay, so now we have a door. We can drag this door into our room, and this one already has a frame. So we can remove the frame on this door, and we can insert this door into the wall. So drag the point, drag where you would like to insert it down to, and there it goes. Now what you'll see at the moment is the door doesn't currently quite fit, because whoever drew this originally has drawn the door dimensions differently to the door hole that we have done. So you've got a few options here. You can, if you're not too worried about the scaling of it for now, you can just basically use the scale button here, select it, you can select the edge of it and drag it across. So let's open up the door, let's grab the scale button. You will have a marker when you're scaling something on the front face, the back face, and then also on the middle face, which you can't currently see because it's within the wall. But if you could, it would look like this. So if I wanted to scale out this way, I can drag here. If I want to scale upwards, I can drag here. And if I want to scale from the corners, I can drag here. Now if you push shift while you're doing this, it will keep it proportionately. If you don't, you will see it start scaling up and down. So let's see how good this model of this door is. What I don't really want to do is scale the door handle, because the door handle will stretch and look quite strange. So let's see if he has designed this model in a way that we can scale it without automatically selecting the door handle. He hasn't. So this has all been designed as one. So let's see if we can isolate this door handle for now. If not, remove it completely and add it back in at a later date. So let's take out the door handle. So we can just simply erase this if we wish with the erase tool. Door handle is being removed. Now you may find in the 3D warehouse that a lot of the times the models that you download are not great. Some of them are not scaled properly, they will be too big or too small. That's just the way it is, unfortunately, with an open warehouse that anyone can upload content to. So let's scale this door now. We grab the middle, pull it across, and we select a point up here. That snaps it here. Let's do the same with the top to snap it to the top of the door. Now we have the door sitting within the frame. Now it's slightly forward of the frame, so we can just pull that back slightly if we wish. Now we have a door within a door frame, and let's go and add that handle back in. So let's go to the 3D warehouse again. Let's just search for door handle. Right, so let's just find a basic door handle. This one's by Alejandro Soriano. Download this into our model. Here we have the door handle. Now at the moment this is not snapping onto the face here, so what we've got is a few options. We can place it, we can use the rotate tool, we can select the original orientation of it, which is on the red axis here. You can then select again and it will rotate it to whatever axis we like. Let's rotate it to the green axis because we know this is the axis that we want it on. Let's select the back of the door handle and let's drag it into place here. Now the door handle is currently back to front, so let's use that rotation method again. Let's click on the face of it itself, click down, click upwards, and there we have a door handle. So at this stage we've got a 5x5 room with a ceiling, with a floor, and with some walls. So what has happened during this modelling process, as you'll see, I've accidentally deleted the floor itself as opposed to deleting the duplicate that came on there. I still have a floor. The reason this is a different colour is the face on it is the wrong way around. You'll see this is the face that it should be facing me, and this is actually the back of the material. So if you want to change this, you can right click and you can go reverse faces. Now we have that facing upwards, and we have the blue or grey facing downwards. So let's just assign that again to the floor. Turn the floor off, turn the floor on, still works. And let's go to the ceiling, do the same again. Now what you will see here is it's telling you that you cannot hide an item or a layer that you're already on. So by clicking this tool here, I'm selecting to work on the ceiling layer or add to the ceiling layer. By selecting this here, I'm selecting to work on the untagged items and work on the floor elements and work on the wall elements. So what you can do is select the untagged layer, then you can turn off the ceiling layer. Select the untagged layer, then you can turn off the floor layer. Select the untagged layer, then you can turn off the wall layers. Now you see we've got some historic lines here that were missed out when they were added onto the walls. So if you want, you can select these and also add these onto the walls. And these will then disappear when working with that layer turned off. So let's assign this its own layer. In fact, let's make this its own group to start with. So what we have is we have a door within a group and we have a handle within a group. So let's select both of them and let's right click and let's make a group. What we're also going to do is we're going to make this a component in case we want to create more doors in the future. The component will enable us to change just one of the doors and it will change all of them at the same time. So as this stands, this is not a component. So if I was to go into here and delete this, you will see that the other door keeps its handle. Now if I go back and make this a component, click make component, let's just name it door 1 and create. Now if I copy this, drag this across, and if I go into either of these components, you will see it is selecting both, and delete this, it deletes them in both of them. Quite a handy little tip for you to have. So let's continue and add this into a new tag. Let's create door, select this as door. Now we have the door tag itself. So we can turn everything off and we can turn everything on. We have floor, walls, door, ceiling. Now the floor did not turn on its own first of all there because the walls were turned off, and the floor is part of the walls layer. So first of all you need to turn on walls, then turn on floor, then door, and then ceiling. So here we still have our basic room. Let's just add in a simple window over here. Let's see what we have in the warehouse for now. Not too fussed about the size, so let's just do a window and find something simple. Okay, let's use this one here. Download this. Now here is our window. You can see it's enabling me to select where I want to place it. Let's place it on the face here for now. And you will see that at the moment it doesn't look much like a window. So what we need to do is we need to make a hole where we want that window to go. So what we do is we open the group, open this wall here and select it. And what we can do is simply draw a line around what has been inserted on it with a box. Select that box and delete it. Now we have our window. Now the window doesn't currently come through to the back. Now that's because we haven't deleted that face at the rear of this. So what we could do is we could go back to this where we have our face here. We can drag this to the back. We can then delete this. And we can then also see through the back at the same time. So we have a room with a door, with a window, and that's a kind of a basic intro. Let's start looking at adding some materials or textures onto that. So we'll click the materials button here. Now SketchUp has some basic materials already included in there. things like brick or glass or plaster. Let's go down to fabrics and see what we've got here. We've also got asphalts and concretes and all sorts of stuff. It's not a big selection, but it's not bad. So for now, let's just go wood. Okay, and let's select a wood surface, plywood. Now that's added plywood to the entirety because this is a group. Okay, so if I revert that, open up the floor itself and select this, I can drop the plywood onto the floor. Now, as you see, the plywood doesn't look particularly nice. So let's go back and let's go to fabric and let's add in fabric to here. Okay. Now I have a fabric floor. So what we can now do is we can apply other textures onto other surfaces. We can open this door, open it again, and select all the materials within there. Let's select wood, let's select the wood veneer, and select this onto the door. Now, once you have a texture on something, you're able to manipulate it. So you can click into the texture, you can right click, click texture, position. If you want the grain of the texture to run the other way, you can simply rotate it. Now the grain of that part of the texture will run vertical as opposed to horizontally. Depending on how much or how little you want to do, you can go into it and you can add different textures to different elements of the door to make it stand out slightly better. Here we have just a couple of examples of adding some additional textures into something to make it a bit more lifelike. And this is the end of the first intro tutorial for Sketchup. I will be covering later on in this rendering, 3D rendering, AR, VR, and how to use Lumion to then render final images out. Just before I go, I'll just show you some quick neat tips for ceilings. So if we navigate into the space here with our ceiling on, we can add a texture to our ceiling as well. Right click this as the face is back to front, reverse the face, and let's just let's go a tile, some crazy tiled ceiling for now. We have a tiled ceiling, we have a wooden door, we have a window. Now if you're wondering why this window is highlighted red, that's because the person that designed this has locked it, so you can't edit it. So what you need to do to undo that is open the group, right click it, and you will see it's got an explode option on there. What you can do is you can explode that, and that will then enlarge it and break it into smaller components, and then you can then unlock it. That is now no longer red. This now makes this an editable item for us. So if we wanted, we could go in and we can delete this text here. So this has been designed as one whole piece, as you see. So when I delete this, it deletes the whole thing. So I need to make sure that I click into it far enough to find just the outward text part to just delete that. Now we've removed that from the wall. Now some really good tips to help make your rooms more realistic is add in little finishing touches. Just very quickly before I go, I'll just show you an example of that, and that is, for example, adding in blinds to a room. So let's find some blinds, and let's just download this one here. And now we see we've got a set of blinds. I'm just going to turn my ceiling off for the moment, so it's easier to work. Drop our blinds in, rotate them, drop them into place, and we can scale that across, bring it down the window Now we have a window with some blinds, and you will find that when we go to the camera options on here and we go to shadows, you will see that you now have the effect of the blind coming through as well. And you can go along and you can add in all sorts of stuff to this. You can add in a sofa quite quickly and easily, and you can add in a television, an entire cabinet. Let's just add this one in for now. And yeah, very quick mock-up of how to draw and create a room in SketchUp. Thank you.